The most important number or metric that you can focus on in building an aesthetic physique and in the body game is not your weight, but how much are you progressing and getting stronger in your key compound lifts. And this might sound very obvious. Well, yeah, Nigel, of course we want to get stronger, but you'd be surprised that there's so many people that are going into the gym, they're haphazardly doing workouts. They're not even tracking anything. They're just kind of picking any weight and just kind of going by feel. And then they're also aren't even doing the key lifts in the first place. Like they're going and doing random machines, random isolation workouts. And of course, no wonder they're not going to see any progress, right? It's crazy. And so this is why I'm making this video, because I think it's so important to focus on, okay, what are the key lifts, right? And then how do we track and focus on progressing on them? And then once you actually are able to progress in those key lifts, right, getting stronger, increasing in overall intensity and volume in those key lifts, right? And when I say key lifts, I'm talking about key compound lifts. I'm talking about things like squats, bench press, deadlift, rows, things like this. So my name is Nigel. In the past 15 years, I've been training in the gym consistently. I was a D1 athlete. I also have been an online fitness coach, since 2020. And I've taken my own journey from being a super skinny runner track guy to being able to build a aesthetic physique that I'm really proud of. And I've learned these principles of, building a strong aesthetic physique and being on the body game. And when I was younger, I was a super skinny guy. I had no idea what to do. And when I went to the gym, I was doing random haphazard workouts. I wasn't tracking anything. I didn't even know what a key compound lift was. I was actually kind of scared because that was a section where all the big guys were, doing, benching 225, squatting 300, doing crazy deadlifts, making a bunch of noise. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't need to get there yet. I was doing some random isolation workouts. So, I was just doing fucking bicep curls and just random stuff. And my progress was slow. And then I came across Lane Norton. He's kind of this scientific PhD doctor, lifting guy. And he had this program called PH3, which means improving power and hypertrophy in the top 3 lifts, right? Which is squat, bench press, and deadlift, okay? And so when I started taking that program, the North Star pretty much is, okay, forget everything else, right? Let's simplify it. And let's find ways to program and go to the gym and progress on your squat, bench press, and deadlift. And his promise was that if you were to progress on just those three lifts and say, screw everything else, obviously we still did other kind of isolation accessory workouts as a supplement to those lifts, but the main focus was, measuring and progressing on those top 3 key lifts, right? Which is why it's called PH3. And so I went to the gym. I recruited my 2 of my best friends to the gym with me, and I was like, you know what, guys, we're gonna get jacked and we're gonna build an aesthetic body. And we went on this program and we diligently tracked everything. We didn't really have any fancy kind of tracking software. We literally just took our iPhone, right? Took the Apple Notes on this thing, and we just followed the program. And every single time we went to the gym, we had a plan and we had intent. And we went there with intensity and we were hyping each other up, and we made so much progress. And it wasn't until then I started seeing a lot of gains, and I was like, man, I was really just kind of what I call the hope I was doing the hope strategy when I was going to the gym. I just went to the gym with no plan, with no intent, just randomly doing some BS. But it wasn't until I found a proper program that was focusing on progressing in these key aesthetic, these key compound lifts, and then tracking them and then going to the gym with strong focus and intent on progressing. And it made the gym even fun because it was like, I'm like playing a game now. I'm like gamifying the entire process. And it was almost like, okay, like how can I get better every single time? So I found so much progress with that. The key caveat here is obviously you're not going to see linear growth and progress forever. Obviously you're going to be hitting plateaus, but that's why when it comes into these programs, there's what we call these periods of deloading, right? So we call this periodization. So there's periods where you're focusing on, let's say, just getting volume, and then let's say you're starting to focus on getting more intensity, right? Increasing the overall weight. And then there's a period where you might plateau, and then that's when you deload and you slowly start decreasing your overall volume and intensity of those lifts. And within that deload period, you're letting your body kind of rest a little bit, letting your nervous system rest a little bit. And then after deloading, then you start going up again on that progressive overload. And so think about it like kind of like a stock market graph, right? So let's say there's a company that's going, up and to the right, right? But it's not just a straight line up. It's like you'll see them go up and then kind of go down a little bit and go up and go down a little bit. That's kind of how you want to think in terms of your, progressing in these key lifts, right? So it's like progressive overload and then a period of deloading, and then progressive overload and a period of deloading. And so it wasn't until I focused on doing that is when I started getting really good progress. And I took the same philosophy when I started working with, not just my friends and my own myself, but also when I became an online fitness coach and I started bringing that kind of philosophy where we're mainly focusing on these key compound lifts. We have a few accessory kind of isolation, type of lifts that kind of help, supplement. Depending on whatever their specific body goals are, for example. But the most important thing is those key compound lifts. We would track those. We would find ways to progressive overload. We'll deload when we need to. And anytime we've implemented that type of program, we've seen so much success in doing that. However, there is one thing that you really need to watch out for, and that's on the nutrition side of things. So progressing in your overall key lifts, when you're a beginner, it doesn't really matter when, what your nutrition is, because just the fact that you're going to the gym and whatever your nutrition is, you're going to make gains regardless. Okay. But when you start kind of getting deeper into your programming and you kind of get into more of an intermediate and advanced level, that's when you have to start paying attention to nutrition a lot more. And so this happened to me. It didn't matter in the beginning, like what my nutrition is like. I could have been in a caloric surplus. I could have been in a massive caloric deficit. Just the fact that I was training in this more efficient and effective way, I was getting progress, right? But it wasn't until I started getting to a certain level of progress that I started plateauing, even though I was going through these progressive, these deload phases and trying to go back up in progressive overload. I still was plateauing, and I noticed my energy was low and things just wasn't working out for me. And that's when I realized it's like, okay, well, in order at this new level that I'm at, in order for me to progress in these lifts, I have to start eating at minimum at maintenance calories, okay? And ideally a little bit above that in a slight surplus, like whether that's 200 to 300 additional calories above maintenance, okay? And there was a long period, especially for me, like I'm, what you would call an ectomorph. It's very easy for me to kind of eat at maintenance or slightly below. And in those periods, it's hard to fuel your body in order to kind of, progressive overload and continue to gain muscle in that way. And so that was a huge fault for me. So anyone that's kind of in that similar kind of body archetype as I am, the ectomorph, or it's kind of difficult for you to kind of eat in that caloric surplus, that's one thing to watch out for. But if you're someone that, you are able to consistently be at maintenance or slightly above, and you continue to have, proper sleep, and you're reducing your stress and you're getting that proper recovery, you should see a lot more progress in this kind of lifting philosophy. Okay. So wanted to share that piece of advice for you. Start implementing that into your program and let me know how it goes, and please give it a like and subscribe, and we'll keep talking more about things, everything related to optimizing your physical health, aesthetics, body game, your mental health, and also overall lifestyle design. So I'll see you next time. Peace.